welcome to this third and the final session of the fifth Adhyaya of Sri Bhagavad Gita. Let us start with the gratitude towards the Lord and the gratitude towards our Guru Parampara, through which this knowledge is protected, preserved, passed on through generations. I pay my tributes and respects to Puja Guruma or Guruji, with whose grace I am able to learn these scriptures and share the understanding that I have with you. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Punaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So, in a nutshell, let us recapitulate what we have seen, what Bhagavan Shri Krishna says in the fifth Adhyaya. The first shloka starts with Arjuna's question whether sannyasa is better or karma is better. Where should he go? Whether jnana is better or karma is better. That is the same question, and to which Lord Krishna answers from the second to the sixth shlokas how Karma Yoga and sannyasa are equated, they are the same, both are good, both are niyas shreyasa karau bhav. He says both are kalyankari, shreyaskari, but out of these two he says that Karma Yoga vishishyate, means you do your karma because your adhikaritva is for the karma, and if somebody goes for immature sannyasa, then how dangerous and how painful and how miserable it can be. He has already discussed in the 6th, 7th shloka. And then he talks about the Nishkam Karma Yoga, Brahmanya Dhaya Karmani, Vishwararpana Bhavana, Prasad Buddhi, Sangam Tyaktva. So all these Lord Krishna talks about how we should do Nishkam Karma Yoga. And then from the 7th to the 12th shlokas he talks more about the Jnana, and how with this Jnana we can na kartrutvam, na karmani, na karma yoga, farsa yoga, Prabhu, meaning the God or Atma does not create all these. It is Asanga, it does not create this karma, karma phala, karma sanyoga. And then he talks about all the karma yogi lakshana. And finally, he talks more about the gnani ke lakshana. What should be our goal towards how we reach to the gnan, and what is this gnan which can give us karma sannyasa, which can lead us from karma towards akarma or towards karma sannyasa. So that is the ultimate journey of any sadhaka. And finally, in the last 3 shlokas of the 5th Adhyaya, Lord Krishna talks about the Dhyana Yoga, because the 6th Adhyaya talks mainly about the Dhyana. It's a very beautiful Adhyaya, talks so many things about different aspects about Dhyana, meditation, how we should do it, how that it can be part of our sadhana. So the last 3 shlokas are about Dhyana. So in this 5th, starting from the 3rd, 4th and the 5th shloka, in all these, adhyayas, all these 3 adhyayas, Lord Krishna talks about our sadhana. What he already gave us the Atma Jnana in the 2nd Adhyaya, and then talked about the Karma Yoga, how we can start our practice of spiritual journey, being aware about our life, about our self, about our karma, and how we can keep doing this and what is the goal, Stita Prajna. And then in the 3rd, 4th and the 5th Adhyaya, he talks in details about our Karma Yoga, our sadhana, how we have to go from an average person who is completely unaware, we can call him an Ajnani, and from there how he has to become a sadhaka, that he becomes aware and starts making some efforts, prayatna, to develop some understanding, the right, correct understanding, what is given in our shastras, and then go on to become a Jnani. So that is the entire part of our journey, our sadhana, from Ashuddhi, because we have a lot of Ashuddhis in our mind which does not allow this understanding to seep in, because unless the mind is pure, Shuddha is very important in any Adhyatmic sadhana, and that Shuddhi is not just outside Shuddhi, the Bahya Shuddhi, but it is the Antrik Shuddhi, the inner purity of the mind. The mind is clear of all our conditioning, our Raga, Dvesha, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Mada, Matsarya, all these Ashuddhis which are there in our mind, which works very subtly We are not even aware, because that becomes a kind of our habit and our cycle, how it works, our mind. So this has to be cleaned up by the right understanding, the right act, that is called Satkarma, Karma Yoga. With the right understanding, with the right attitude, if we do karma, then this leads us from Ashuddhi to Shuddhi. So basically, initially, all our efforts have to be prayatna purvak, because the mind and the indriya are so powerful, they are so chanchala, they are so, vichitra, and sometimes we can't even understand how it behaves and it works. So first we have to become aware, do our efforts, do our best, and gradually as we go towards more Shuddhi, more Jnana, then all these habits develop and gradually it becomes more Sahaja. So this is the entire journey of the sadhana that Lord Krishna is talking about, which is from Vishamata, Bheda Buddhi, or seeing differences everywhere. We have to go more towards Samata. And in the 5th Adhyaya, in the last session, we talked about the Samatva Buddhi that Lord Krishna is talking about, that is not just the prayatna for a sadhaka, but it is also the goal for a jnani to remain in Sahaj Samata. That comes with a lot of practice of these spiritual practices, sadhana. So basically we have to reach to complete Samatva Buddhi, where in the last session we saw that Brahmane, Gavi, Hastini, everywhere there is a Samatva Buddhi, Samata, Suran, Mitra, Udasina. Nowhere there is a Bhed Buddhi. So that is the final stage that we have to reach in our sadhana, from seeing all the differences to oneness. And from Sapeksha Samatva, which is important for our Karma Yogi, because Karma Yoga also has to be Nirdvandva. He also has to rise above the dualities of this earth. He also has to develop Titiksha, Sahanashilta, and then finally he has to reach a stage where all this comes very Sahaja. It is a Purna Samatva, where there is Samadrashti and Purna Samata. So that is the final stage of a Jnani. So from Sadhaka, we have to reach towards this stage, ultimately to Samadhi, Sadhana. Through this, from Ajnana, we have to go towards the Atma Jnana. And only if we get this final Atma Jnana, the Brahma Jnana, we can become a Jnani, develop Shuddhi, develop Sahaj, Samata, Samatva. All these is part of this journey. So this is the journey that Bhagavan Shri Krishna is talking about in these adhyayas, and all this, how we can achieve this. He has already shown us the goal where we can reach this. So just to recapitulate, na prahashyet priyam prapya, na dvijet prapya chapriyam, sthira buddhira sammudo brahmavid brahmani stitaha. So he says, this is the attributes of the wise. He's talking about the Samatva Buddhi, which has to be achieved by the Karma Yogi who is on his path, a sadhaka. Priyam prapya na prahashyet means after getting what he likes, whatever we like, whatever we get, we don't get too happy about it, we don't get too elated. And cha apriyam prapya na udvijet means after getting things which we don't like. Sometimes somebody criticizes us, or sometimes we get phala which is not something to our expectation. We may have expected something else, but when we do that action, we get some different karma phala, something that is contrary to us, or something which is not dependent on us. Then we become very upset because we have got something that we never wanted, never expected. So this kind of personality, Bhagavan says that it is not good. It's better to be sthira buddhi. It's better to be samatva, nirdvandva. And this is what he wants, that we use our intellect, we use our understanding, and we become focused. We don't become too decisive. We become decisive, more decisive, and that is what is called sthira buddhi. And he uses another word called asamudha. Asamudha is a person who does not have any attachments. Brahmavid brahmani stita. Only such a person who is stita in Brahma, who is established in this Brahma, samata, stita prajna, sthira buddhi. So this is the person who can achieve this, who can become a Brahmavid, and he can be firmly established in Brahma Jnana or Atma Jnana, which is the ultimate goal for any of the spiritual practices. So this is what Lord Krishna says. He wants us to become sthira buddhi, and this is our responsibility as a seeker, that we must become more decisive. There are several options in the world, but we have to be very clear-headed. We have to take decisions based on whatever is good for us rather than what we like. We have to think about what is good for us, and that is how we have to become Sthira Buddhi. He's already said before, Nishchayatmika Buddhi, Sthira Buddhi, Asammudha. So all this he has already told us. And with this kind of a buddhi, the main purpose of a buddhi or intellect is to take decisions, to decide the goal, to decide what is the purpose of life, to decide these higher objectives of our life, and then make our attempts, to reach that goal. So commit our life towards that higher goal rather than just living a routine life. We have to ask ourselves what is the higher purpose of our life. And with this, if we commit to our higher goal, and then the scriptures tell us what is the reality, what the truth is. We may understand it, we may not understand it. That is up to us, because it depends on how much is our shuddhi, our antakarana shuddhi. Based on that, we can understand what is our eligibility, our jignasa, our tatparta, our shraddha in the scriptures. So we have to have faith in Bhagwan, in scriptures, and in our Guru. That is important, because whatever is told to us is something sometimes initially very contrary to our understanding, to our concept, to our understanding of life. And that's why we have to have faith that whatever the scriptures are telling, maybe they are been true for more than thousands of years. So it cannot be something which is very false. There has to be the truth in it. But I'm not able to understand, so I must make some attempt to understand how this is possible. And then gradually a stage will come when, while we are listening to these scriptures from the Guruji, we'll feel that yes, this is the reality. But then that reality does not stay there, does not remain sthira into our mind. So what are those practices that we need to do to make our buddhi sthira and sthira buddhi, and we assimilate whatever we have learned in our life. So this is the function of our buddhi. It can make decisions what is good for us, how we should spend our time, in what ways we should spend our time, so that we can progress on this journey, our spiritual journey or adhyatmic sadhana. So that is what is sthira buddhi. Asammudha, Bhagavan uses another word called asammudha. So asammudha is a person who does not have any attachment, moha, mudita nahi hai, means does not have any moha or any attachments or delusions. And attachments or the moha is the one that deludes our mind, disturbs our vision, does not allow us to see the true reality in front of us. And this moha is the main problem. And the main important moha that our scriptures tell us are these two. One is our false identification with our own body-mind complex, that we believe that I am this person, I am this person, I am this, this is my designation, I am this qualification, I am the male, I am, a father, I am this, all my identification with myself, the false identification that is there. And because of this false identification with our body and our mind, we have our mamakar, or attachment to a lot of different people, that this is my family, these are my relatives, these are my clients, these are my friends, these are my, all this is my house, this is my wealth, this is my land, this is my possession. All our attachments to all our close people, persons, situations, circumstances, objects, possessions, all this is out of the moha. And this moha makes us muda, does not allow us to see the reality. It works very subtly. We don't even know, we don't even think or are aware that this is moha. We believe that this is the reality, this is what it is. But our scriptures tell us that this is not the reality. And the root cause of the moha, according to our Upanishad, is ajnana. And this is the false identification with our body-mind complex. And this ajnana needs to be taken care. And for this is our sadhana. Our spiritual journey is for this. Awareness is very important. We have to take life seriously. We have to understand, try to understand what is given in our scriptures. Make an attempt, learn, progress on this path. And constantly, our Guruji tells us very commonly that introspection is a very, very important part of the spiritual journey, because that will help us to understand what is given in the scriptures, to assimilate this in our life, and to go from moha to asammudha. And a gnani, a person who has understood everything, all this knowledge, self-knowledge, atma gnana, this person does not have an identification with this body, mind complex. He identifies with the eternal consciousness, the Shuddha Atma Chaitanya, and this person is completely nirmoha. It does not have any attachment, because that false identification, that the root cause for the moha, ajnana, is not there. Because of this Atma Jnana, is able to see that whatever I am sarvatra samadarshinaha, and this vision is that person, Jnani person, Purusha, has this kind of a vision. In the next shloka, Bhagavan Krishna says, Bahya sparsheshva sattatma vinyattatmani yat sukham sa brahma yoga yuktatma sukham akshaya ashnute. So here Lord Krishna talks about the real happiness. Where is the real happiness? What is that real happiness? What are those means to achieve this eternal bliss that we all yearn for all the time? And he says, Bahya sparsheshu asaktatma, one who is unattached to the happiness by outer contact. Bahya sparsha means outer contact, and outer contact means that when the sense organs, the indriya, comes in the contact with the vishaya, there is this, we feel or perceive some kind of an happiness which comes from outside. So this is the bahya sparsha, what Lord Krishna talks about. And one person who is unattached to this bahya sukha, or this is called the, this pleasure that comes from outside or from the outer objects. So these kind of pleasure, every day we come, in contact with this, like indriya, the chakshu indriya gets in contact with the rupa, some vision that we have, and then we get in attachment or like this kind of a person or some kind of a figures. So that is the sakta. We become, mohit sakta to this kind of a indriya. Similarly, shotrendriya work is to hear. When we hear some praises, we like something. We hear about the certain things like television, mobile phones. How it happens is Chakshundriya and Shotrendriya are active, and we listen and we see these different forms, shapes, desires. We listen to different music, different words, and this creates a kind of a liking, disliking, raga, dvesha, and our desires develop. And this is how, similarly, Tvagendriya, the feeling. So the sensual pleasures, the physical pleasures that we get out of touch, also we develop likes, dislikes to these kind of. So these are all bahya sukha. Bahya sparsheshu asaktatma, one who is unattached to this happiness which is caused by the outer contact between the sense organs and the objects. Vindati atmani yat sukham. So one who obtains an eternal happiness in one's own self, and he gets his own self by meditation, by understanding this, by jnana, he gets his happiness, and this is called antar sukha. It is not bahya sukha. There is one which is bahya sukha, the another is the antar sukha, where he gets the pleasure or the happiness in his own self, atma, atmani sukham, and that is by these entire spiritual practices. Sa Brahma Yoga Yukta Atma. That person is a yukta person, he is a balanced person, because he has a proper control over his mana, indriya, and he is the person who is firmly rooted in the Brahma Yoga Yukta Atma. He is rooted in the divinity Brahma or in the Atma. So that is the person, and he is the person who gets Akshayam Sukham Ashnute. So he gets Akshaya Sukha. Akshaya means something that does not get Kshaya. Kshaya means destruction, does not get affected. It is the same, it is everlasting happiness, experiencing this divine bliss. So what is Bhagavan Krishna trying to say from here? Let us try and understand. So in this shloka, Lord Krishna talks about two kinds of sukha. One is Bahya Sparsha and one is Atmani. So Bahya Sparsha is called the Vishaya Sukha in our scriptures, and the Atmani Sukha is a Brahma Sukha or the Atma Sukha, which is the inner Sukha. And our Upanishads tell us that the real happiness that we all look for is inside us. It is not outside. Outside, whatever get is a very transient kind of an happiness. And let us see what are the differences that our scriptures tell us. So Vishaya Sukha comes from outside, from the objects, and this is with the Indriya Sparsha. Whereas Atma Sukha comes from inside, and that is by, meditating or contemplating on our own inner self. So Vishaya Sukha is dependent on this contact of the sense organs with the objects, whereas in Atma Sukha there is no such contact is necessary. We just have to sit in silence to get this, to feel this happiness or Sukha. Vishaya Sukha is dependent, paradhina. It is dependent on outside objects, And of course, it is dependent on our sparsha, contact with these outside objects. Whereas Atma Sukha is completely independent. It is not affected because here you don't need a contact with any outside objects. Vishaya Sukha, in the next shloka, Lord Krishna is going to tell us it is Adhyantavanta, means it comes and goes. It is very transient. Our Vedanta tells us that it's an illusion that this sukha or happiness comes from those objects. That is also an illusion. It is actually our own sukha which is just, which is felt because at that time our ichha or our gets completely satisfied and we become nirichha or nirapeksha. So at that point of time, for a brief period of time, we develop or we feel contact with this Atmani Sukha. So it's a very transient Sukha. Whereas Atma Sukha is a more permanent, more everlasting. It says Akshaya Sukha. It is more everlasting. Vishaya Sukha is always unsatisfied. We're never satisfied. Whenever we get one happiness, one contact, one joy, either it is Chakshu Indriya, Shrotriya Indriya or Vagendriya, physical pleasures, whatever. The moment it is gone, then we again start developing the craving. So it keeps on wanting. It is always this kamanas, these desires, they always want this experience. Whereas Atma Sukha, here we are completely satisfied. There is paripurnata because this Atma is a paripurna. Its nature is that of completeness. So that's why one doesn't yearn for this because one already has this completely all the time. And Vishaya Sukha, whenever it is not there, then there is always stress, anxiety, whether we will get it again or not, whether it will happen again. Once we get it, we like it, we develop moha, then we don't know whether it will come, when it will come again. So there is a lot of stress involved in the Vishaya Sukha. Whereas in Atma Sukha, it is completely swatantra, there is complete peace, there is no anxiety, there is no stress. So these are the differences. Unwise person, they yearn for this Vishaya Sukha outside, they keep running around for the entire world for this kind of a transient happiness. That is what our Shastras tell us. And the wise person is only happy with his inner Atma Sukha. They don't have to run around for this kind of Sukha. They don't keep running, begging outside for this kind of a Sukha. So, our Guruji tells us that how do we experience and we get it? Whether first we have to tyaga the Vishaya Sukha and then grahana the Atma Sukha, that we have to let go of this Vishaya Sukha first and get the Atmani Sukha, or second question is whether first we get the Atma Sukha and then let go of the Vishaya Sukha. How does it happen? How does this understanding develop? How we be aware about whether that real Sukha or happiness is inside? Whether do we get first and then have to let go of the outer Sukha, or we let go first of the outer Sukha, the happiness from the objects, and then we get the Vishaya Sukha. So this is a question, and it is very beautifully answered by Guru Maharaj. Tells us that there is a difference in the worldly life, in the Vyavahara, and in the Adhyatmic life. In the worldly life, first we have to do Grahana, then we have to do Tyaga. Means, for example, suppose we are using a two-wheeler and then we get a new car, or we have a small home and we buy a bigger home. Then we first buy a bigger home, or first we buy a car and then we let go of the smaller object like a two-wheeler. So it is like first we have to Grahana something new and then we Tyaga, or we let go of the lesser important thing. Whereas in the spiritual journey, Adhyatma Yatra, works a little differently. First we have to give Tyaga, only then we get the Grahana of the higher thing or the higher value or the higher purpose or the higher importance. So here Vairagya is so important because first Tyaga, let go, is more important in Adhyatma Sadhana. First we have to let go little bit some Vishaya Sukha, and then only we can get the essence or the happiness or the true understanding of the Atma Sukha. So this is how Vairagya works, and for a seeker on the journey, we have to learn to let go. That's why Vairagya is so important on this journey, on the Antakarana Atma Gnana Sadhana, that we have to learn to let go of certain things. Only then we can reach the higher goals of our journey. Yehi sansparshaja bhoga dukkhayo evate adhyantavanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. So here Lord Krishna tells us, O Kaunteya, O Arjuna, The sense pleasures are adhyantavanta. They come and go. They are dukkha yonava. They give pain. So somebody may say that I'm not interested in Atma Sukha. I'm just interested in these sense pleasures. Why not enjoy this life? Life has been given to us to enjoy these sense pleasures. Why worry about Atma Sukha? We don't want this Atma Sukha. So this can be an argument by somebody. But then this Bahya Sukha, these sense objects or the pleasures or this transient happiness that we have from these outer objects, they have an inherent tendency to give us a pain also, which we don't realize. And that's what Lord Krishna says here, yehi sansparsha ja bhoga. These pleasures that we get from our contact with our objects, we do bhoga, we get pleasure. And this bhoga only gives us this pain. He says it is not a cause for pleasure, it is a cause for pain. Dukkha yonava evate. These are the same ones are the cause for miseries. Because what happens is that when we go for these pleasures, we, without understanding, without our mind, body, our intellect, without using our understanding, without having control over our indriya, manas, sanyama, we go on indulging into it without any restraint, without any control. And this is what happens. This is our experience, that we can't control ourselves. The moment we come across something that we are like, say for example, somebody likes samosas a lot, or somebody likes rasgullas a lot. Wherever there is a very tempting hot samosas come in front of us, we are not able to control. Just by eating one, we don't get satisfied. We think, we should have the second one, the third one, maybe the fourth one also. And then we don't worry or understand or realize or think about what will happen to us because of these rasagullas that I am eating, whether my diabetes will go up or not. We don't worry about that part at that point of time, because we are so engulfed, we are indulging into these sense pleasures without understanding the implications, the long-term implications of how much my blood sugars will go up, how much weight I will put in for that 1.5 inches of anterior tongue that has those kind of the test buds, and for the 1.5 minutes of the time that this test is going to remain on this test bud, we indulge onto it. So this is the nature of these indriya, sanyama, the bhoga, dukkha, and this is how it causes dukkha. So dukkha is not immediate. Dukkha is in the long run, it is giving us this dukkha. Why? These sense pleasures that we enjoy, these bhogas that we enjoy, we think that this is giving us pleasure, but that is only transient. The more everlasting, more enduring is the dukkha yonava, because that is the nature of these kind of sense organs, and they are adhyantavantaha. Hey Kaunteya, hey Arjuna, oh Arjuna, these pleasures that come from outer objects, they come and go. They are very transient, they are momentary. The best of pleasures are very, very transient. The moment you have it, that possession is there, that pleasure or that happiness is gone. Any of these pleasures, may be from the objects, may be because of the mind, may be because of some praise somebody gives us. All this, even the physical pleasures, the orgasms, and all these pleasures are very, very transient. They are just momentary. And they come and they go. All these are. And nateshu ramate buddhaha. So the wise do not indulge in them. That is what Lord Krishna says, that the wise person understands what is the nature of these bahya sukha or outer happiness, or vishay sukha, vishay happiness, sansparsha ja bhoga, the happiness that comes, perceived to come from the outer object. It is not the actual happiness. It is not the real sukha. Vedanta tells us that it is an illusion that there is happiness. But at least whatever illusion that we have is also transient, and that is also temporary. It is coming and going, and actually it is not giving us pleasure, but actually it is giving us the pain. It is dukkha yonava evate. So we all humans, what we do all our activities in our lifetime, right from the moment we wake up in the morning till we go to bed in the night. We do whatever activities we do to get some sukha, some happiness, whatever we do, and that is the purpose of our life. And the second purpose is to avoid pain. We don't want pain. We want happiness, we want sukha, and we do any action or inaction to become happy. And what the kind of happiness that we want is not a temporary happiness. We all want a permanent happiness. We don't want कि sukha aaye aur fir wo chala jaye. we want that it should remain with us. So whenever that sukh, that perception of our sukha that goes away, then we become again unhappy, again we become sad, miserable, painful, and we don't want pain, we only want happiness. That is our nature. No, whatever gives us pain, we want to make it remain away from it. Dvesha buddhi. So whatever gives us pain, somebody is not conducive to us, does not listen to me, does not obey my commands, or does not do what I am telling him to do. Somebody becomes angry at me, I don't like that person. So all these are, somebody gives me some pain, miseries, I have a dvesha buddhi, dvesha bhavana towards, I only want happiness all the time. And uncontrolled sense pleasures definitely gives rise to pain. That is what Lord Krishna has clearly said, that these are all dukkha yonava, they give pain, they are not the cause for pleasure. But we all want eternal peace of mind. We all want this. What is a moksha? Moksha is all eternal peace of mind. Everlasting happiness is moksha. Freedom from all these dukkha, yoni, all these outer, dependence on outer thing is complete freedom. And that itself is moksha. So essentially we all run around for moksha every moment, because this is what we want. Everlasting happiness, everlasting sukha. We don't want any lesha matra dukkha, not a sparsha of dukkha. That is not what we want. And Ishvara has created this srushti, this jagata, this world, which is sukhada, which is, which has no dukkha in it. But what dukkha is added by the jiva. Jiva creates this dukkha by creating my, mine, your, this is my, this is your, I am this, I am that. I want this, I don't want this. Raga, dvesha, ahankara, mamakara, these are all the things that jiva adds, all this masala to this jagata and makes it a sansara. And sansara is the dukkha yoni. Because here, because of all these ahankara, mamakara and all these vices that we have, kamana, krodha, moha, matsarya, jealousy, and all these vices that they create the dukkha, and that creates a sansara chakra. So this is what all is, Jiva Srushti. So we need to differentiate these two Srushti. The Ishwar Srushti is not a Dukkha Srushti. The Jiva Srushti is the Dukkha Srushti. So Prakriti also has these two, Jagata and Sansara. So next shloka. Shaknoti haivaya sodhum raksharira vimokshana kama krodhodbhavam vegam sayukta Sasukhi naraha. So here Lord Krishna talks about the two main sources of our enemies, Kama and Krodha. How the desires and angers make us unhappy and miserable. And he says somebody who can control these desires and anger is the person who is truly happy person. It says Sa Sukhi naraha. Sa Sukhinara, that is the person who is a truly happy person. One who can control, it says Shaknoti ihaiva yaha sodhum. One who is capable of controlling in this life, ihaiva, in this very life, before death comes to us. We don't have to postpone this. This control that we need to develop has to be done as soon as we can. And what is that? Prak Sharira Vimokshana. Before this body comes to an end. Before death comes to us, we have to do this in this our own life. We have to do this. What we have to do? We have to do Kama Krodhod Bhavam Vegam. That Vega, that force that is Udbhava or created by the desires Kama and Krodha. So Kama Krodh se jo Udbhav hua Vega, that force that develops because of this. We all know that Kama and Krodha has a lot of a wave, heat and emotion associated with it. We know it, that the kamana, when it desires utpanna hoti hai, when krodha comes to us, we know that we are becoming angry, we are going to develop angry. We tell the other person, देखो अभी मेरे को कुछ बोलना नहीं, अभी मैं बहुत गुस्सा हो जाऊंगा. That means that force, that wave has started inside, because we become aware of it. But one who has this power to control this Kama Krodha, that wave or that emotion associated with Kama and Krodha, he is a Yukta person, he is a real yogi. That is what Bhagavan Krishna tells us. So let us talk about Kama Krodha. Lord Krishna talks about this in many different adhyayas, in different areas. In the 4th adhyaya also he said, Kama Esha Krodha, Esha Rajoguna Samudbhavaha. And we need to develop this control of Kama, Krodha, and that has to be done with our own mind, our own intellect. And with this, we have to control these senses, these organs, and this is very essential. No doubt, this is difficult to control. We come across several of our patients also I come across every day who are unable to control their mind, their desires, their anger, and that's why they develop so many psychosomatic problems. They develop so many acidity related issues, they develop irritable bowels, they develop lots of intestinal problems because they are not able to control their mind. Almost 70-75% of these patients who have these GI symptoms have a problem in their mind. They are not able to control their Kama and Krodha. And this God says that Bhagavan says it is very, very important to control. Because if you don't control, then what happens is that it invites many other vices which come in. Because Kama and Krodha is the root cause of other vices like Moha, Lobha, Mada, Matsarya. All these other vices come because of the Kama. And Kama is considered to be the central, because even Krodha, the Mula is the Kama. Because when the desires come and these desires don't get satisfied, then the Krodha happens. So Kama is the desires, is the Mula vice, it's the root cause of all our problems. And Lord Krishna has already said they are, the Rajo Guna Samudbhava, and they are your biggest enemies in your spiritual journey. If you don't control them, not only your mind but even your body will get affected. And we have to do this in this very life. In this very moment we have to control this. There is no alternative. We cannot postpone these important decisions of our life that okay, I will do it later. When I retire, I will control my Krodha or my Kamana. It is not that. We have to do it right now. That is what Lord Krishna is telling us. And that only we can do by awareness. We have to be aware each and every moment. We have to be aware because these work very subtly in our mind. The way it works, we don't even understand. It has become so routine for us that these Kamanas, these desires spring up. This Krodha comes when somebody doesn't listen to us. Some things doesn't happen according to how we want it to happen, and our own ahankara, our own guruta, granthi, that is our own superiority complex over other people who are working for us, that this gives rise to our ahankara and our krodha. So we have to be very, very aware about every moment about our life. So our Guru Maharaj tells us very, very commonly that our spiritual journey is not a part-time job, it's a full-time job. Every moment of our life we have to implement whatever we learned on this object. So it's not just that 1 hour we may listen to it and then we don't practice that and we live our life accordingly. It's not like that. Every moment of our life we have to live in this spiritual awareness, and we have to make the peace of our mind as the most valuable asset for us. It must become the first priority for us, because only then we will give importance to this. Otherwise, our peace of mind gets affected by this Kama, Krodha, all these vikshipta karta hai, man ko itna disturbed karta hai that it keeps on happening. We don't even realize, and we believe that this disturbed mind is our natural self. The disturbed mind is not our natural self. Our Shastras tell us that the complete peace of our mind is our natural self. All these vikshepas, all these disturbances in our mind is not our natural self. That is created by us. And that's why if we don't have a peace of our mind, if these raga, dvesha, these kama, krodha keep disturbing our mind all the time, we cannot do any progress in our life, neither in the worldly, neither in the spiritual dimensions. And that's why it becomes very important to manage our own mind, because it is only with our own mind that we are going to control these raga, dvesha, these kama, krodha. And that's why there are several solutions that Guruji talks about. Many of them are temporary solutions, many of them are long-standing permanent solutions to control this kama and krodha. So let us look at some of the temporary solutions that has been shown to us in our sadhana. One is that the mind it works like a child. It does jid. Nahi, ye mere ko chahiye. I want this. At any cost, I want this. So sometimes we have to just divert the mind. Just like when a child, how he works, he wants something very badly, jid karte hai, so we try to divert their mind कि नहीं ये नहीं, चलो इसकी जगह आपको ये दिखाते हैं, ये कराते हैं. So that is, how we divert this mind. Similarly, when our mind becomes focused on certain thing, we should try and divert our mind. And there are some circumstances that ignite, that precipitate this kama or krodha. We know that there are some advertisements, some TV, some mobile, something that we keep doing again and again. There are some people who make us angry. We know that these are the people who, the way they speak, they make us angry. So it's better that we remain away from these circumstances that ignite this kama and krodha in us. Because that is the precipitating factors. We should realize the importance of these factors and stay away from these areas. And sometimes when we become angry, then we should try and change that circumstance, or it is said that we should just go wash our face, take a shower, take a bath. Maybe because anger is like a fire. It not just burns me, but it also burns the other person. And fire, as we know, can only be quietened by water. So sometimes water helps. Washing our face or taking a shower or taking a bath helps to control this fire of our krodha or our anger. And some learned saints or sant purush ऐसा भी कहते हैं कि go and see your face in the mirror. When you are angry, you see your own face. You won't like it. You will yourself feel that what is it? Is it my own face or what? So these are the solutions that learned people, saints can teach us how we can stay away from anger. We can leave that place, go out in the open, maybe get some deep breath, go into the nature, because changing the scenario, changing the situation, changing the people, going to the nature, taking some deep breath, maybe can help us to quieten down. But these all we should be aware when the anger comes to us, that these are the solutions that can help us becoming, getting away from, of course, asking for help. If we can remember God at that time, nothing like it, we can ask for help and God will definitely help us. Taking deep breath, and mind has a direct connection, so that can help us and we can get out of our anger. Our Guruji tells us that we should accept anger as a vice. We should never be accepted, justified, that yes, anger is helpful to me. In some way, people listen to me. I get my work done by becoming angry. If we justify anger in this way, we will never come out of anger. So we should justify anger. You should always accept it as a dosha. It is a vice. It is a, dosha. It is not an alankara or a virtue for me, and we should never try to justify anger. And we must take a firm resolution to come out of it. If we have an anger, we must take a firm decision that yes, I want to come out of it. This is destroying me. This is not helping me in my journey, in my life, in my relationship. It is not helping me. And we should take each day at a time, one step at a time. The morning when we wake up, Guruji tells us that you take a daily resolution that today I don't want to become angry, and we must live the day accordingly. And we must pray to the Lord asking for help and take a daily resolution. And then we must pass our entire day with utmost awareness that today I don't have to be angry, use all these solutions that I have been given. And then by evening we should do introspection whether I have been a successful or a failure. Have I become angry on somebody for unnecessary reasons? And then slowly and steadily we will keep progressing and get rid of the anger. It is not that one fine day we will just get anger over us, or we may get all these unnecessary desires over us. It is not going to happen like that. It has to be a very slow and steady progress. And this is Lord Krishna himself tells in his 6th adhyaya, he says, Shanaihi uparamay. Dhire dhire hota hai. All these in the Adhyatmic field, all these things that is happening in our mind happens very, very slowly. It has to be very slow, gradual process. And that's why we have to keep doing it day after day, day after day, day after day. Again, next day morning when we get up, we have to take the resolution, yes, today I have to pass this day without anger, without getting angry, without becoming angry on somebody. The other thing that our Guru Maharaj tells us is that we should never be angry, but occasionally we may need to do a drama of or having an anger. This has to be like a drama. And this drama parents can do sometimes for the welfare of the children. If the children are not doing the right thing, then we may have to become angry as a parent. As teachers, for the welfare of our students, if they're not on the right path, sometimes we have to become angry for them. For a good friend, if our friend is not doing the right thing, we may become angry for them. But this anger is like a drama. And what is this anger drama? And this anger drama is that anger is under my control. I am not under the control of anger. So there is a big difference between this anger drama and the anger that happens regularly. Whenever anger happens regularly, जब क्रोध आता है तो क्रोध के वश में हम हो जाते हैं. We speak something which we should not. We behave in a way which should not. We forget all the respect, traditions and whatever good things that we have heard. So we are under control of the anger. But when we do an anger drama, anger is under my control. So I become angry as much as I want to. And this anger is only momentary. Just for a moment I become angry on that person. I say what needs to be said. And the next moment I am again with the peace of my mind. I am not disturbed and I am not again talking disrespectfully with that person. So this is called as an anger drama. Means that I become angry with my own will. Under my volition it is, for the particular time period I am angry. And next moment I am not with having any anger. So one who controls this again and again, Lord Krishna says here again that the real happiness is to control this anger and this desire. Uska jo veg hai, jab udbhav hota hai, kama krodhodbhavam vegam, jo control karta hai, he is a sah sukhi naraha. He is a real happy person. That is what Lord Krishna tells in this shloka. That the permanent solution for getting over all these desires, angers, unnecessary springing up in our mind, all as scriptures tell us, it is all because of moha ajnana. And only with the right gnana, with the right understanding, we can get over this. But that takes a long time to get this understanding that there is Chaitanya, one Chaitanya in every one of us. So we learn to forgive the other person, seeing that the other person also is a part of me. That kind of a darshana takes years or maybe many lives to develop this kind of jnana. Our Guruji gives an example that sometimes what happens is that our tongue is bitten by the teeth. It comes under the teeth and we bite our tongue. But we never punish the tongue for that or the teeth. We don't punish the teeth for biting the tongue. Because in teeth as well as in the tongue, we have the same ahama buddhi. We have the same feeling that this tongue is my own, this teeth is also my own. Why should I punish my teeth for biting my tongue? Even though it is by mistake that the teeth bit the tongue. So we forgive the teeth. Similarly, if somebody else gives us this dukkha or tells something disturbing to me, if I believe that person also has some ansha of my own Chaitanya, that I'll forgive that person. And forgiveness is the way to get over this krodha, anger. And that is in Jain Dharma also, they give a lot of importance to forgiveness. We must forgive them, vichami dukadam, forgive the other person, because that dvesha bhav that is there in us will gradually get shithila, will get neutralized. We can look at the entire world like a drama, like a play that is happening, as an illusion of the Maya that is there. And so we don't give too much importance to whatever is happening in our day-to-day life, and we become angry. Because we become angry because we feel that this is not the right thing, this is the right thing, this is what it should be done, I should do it accordingly. And that is why we believe that. But if we see everything like a drama, we don't get angry when we are seeing a movie or a drama. When somebody else does anger, then we don't also become angry. So if we can try to see things like this, the world like this, and to see the world as a playground of Ishvara. It's all inki maya hai, and everybody is like a puppet in the hands of the Lord. Jaise wo nachate, aise sab nachte. If we can look at the world from this perspective, then definitely, we'll give less and less importance to what is happening, what is seen. Mahatva buddhi kam se kam hoti jayegi jagat mein. And this Mahatva buddhi, when we give too much of importance to small little things, that is when all these problems happen. And every human is conditioned by habits, but these habits we can keep changing. This Mahatva buddhi, we have a lot of Mahatva buddhi in the Jagata, in the Sansara, in the things that is happening in our relations, in our people, in our things, in our possessions, if we can change that, and all this we can change. Even our science tells us that there is something called neuroplasticity of the brain, through which we can change the conditioning of our mind, and we can start giving less and less importance to these worldly objects and give more and more importance to what is given in our scriptures. We give more and more importance to what is more valuable to us, like the peace of our mind, which is so valuable to us. And then we have to think that finally we have to let go of everything in this world one day. Why can't I leave these desires and this anger now? Because one day we have to get rid of everything. So with this kind of understanding, we can get rid of these unnecessary desires, krodha, kamana. So in the next three shlokas, the 24, 25 and 26, Lord Krishna talks about the wise person, his characteristics, his attributes, which he's already achieved this, which is the ultimate goal for us. But for the seekers, what he has to try, what he has to strive, and what he has to achieve, that is what he is talking about. Yontah sukhontara rama tathantar jyotirevayah sayogi brahmanirvanam brahmabhutodhigacchati. So here he talks about sayeva, one person who surely has three things. He says antah sukha, antah arama and antah jyoti. So if somebody has antah sukha, means that person has his own happiness or pleasure or peace in his own self. He does not have to depend on outside the bahya sukha, the bahya vishaya for his happiness. But he gets it in his own antakarana, in his own mind, in his own self. That person. Second is, he says antah arama, person who has a peace, he feels at home with his own self, his own physical body. He has the arama. With his own intellect, with his own inner mind, he has the arama, means he feels at home, he feels at peace or pleasure with his own self. And one person who is antah jyotir, one who feels or has understanding that the main light or the source of everything is in his own self. Antar jyotir means that light of knowledge is there inside me, through which I am able to perceive everything in this world. Not just my own self, but everything around in this world. So that kind of an understanding, when somebody has yogi brahma bhuta brahma nirvana adhigacchati. So when one develops this kind of an understanding, that yogi who is one with the Brahma achieves this liberation, or he achieves the moksha. And that is what he says. So when these three things are satisfied, when one feels antah sukha, antah arama and antah jyoti, then that person believes that he is the Brahma Nirvana, he has achieved the liberation, he is one with the Brahma. Labhante Brahma Nirvanam Rushaya Kshena Kalmashaha Chinnatvedhayatatmanaha Sarvabhuta Hiterataha. So here Lord Krishna says that person is a Rishi, Rushayaha. Rushayaha, who is the person who has seen this tattva, and he sees sarva bhuta hiterataha. He lives for the betterment of all, lives a completely non-violent, selfless life, which is for the benefit, for the betterment of the community at large. He is yatatmanaha, whose mind, senses are all under control, yata atmanaha, and who is chinna dveda. Chinna dveda means one who's all these doubts, dveda. Dveda means dveda. Two koti, dvida. Dvida means that there are either this can be there or this can be there. There is always a doubt whether it could be this or it could be this. So this dveda is already chinna. It's already destroyed all these doubts. All these doubts are cleared, and these doubts are mainly for three things. One is for Jagata, one is for Jiva, and one is for Jagdisha or the Ishvara. So Jiva can all have doubts. Oh, I am the body. Oh, I could be the mind. I am my brain. I myself is the brain. I could be my Atma. I could be Anatma. So all these doubts are there in our mind. Regarding Jagata, what we see, we believe that this is the reality. This is my relations. These are my friends. These are my reality. Some people may feel, no, this is not the reality. Something else is the reality in this Jagata. So all these doubts, whether Jagata is created by somebody or it is not created, all our doubts regarding Ishvara, Jagdisha, whether there is God, whether there is no God, whether God is there, then whether it's sitting there in the heaven, or whether it's there in my Antaratma, whether God is there in all these Kana, or God is there in the Mandira temple, is there in the idol. So all these doubts are there in our mind all the time. So somebody who has cleared all these doubts, Chinna Dvedaha, Kshena Kalmashaha, all sins have been destroyed. Kalmasha is all this papa, sins, and we unknowingly we do a lot of papa, or we have done it previously in all previous janma also. In this janma also, we may have done a lot of those sins by man, vachana, and our vani and karma. We may have done a lot of papa. So all these sins have been washed away. And how these are washed away? Of course, these are washed away by the Gnana, the Brahman Nirvana, the Atma Gnana. So one who has achieved this, known this Tattva Gnana, and has become a Rishi, Rishayaha. So he is the person who is Brahman Nirvanam Labante. Such Rishis have achieved freedom, they have achieved moksha, they have achieved Nirvana, Brahman Nirvana. So somebody, and these Rishis, they live for others, they have a good control over their mind, intellect, they have Chinna Dveda, all these doubts have been cleared, and all their sins have been washed off. So these are the learned or the wise people that Bhagavan is talking about. For the people like us who are seekers, this is something that we need to do, develop, and over a period of our life. But let us understand what is this Tattva. Tattva is the foundation, it is the root element of everything, and that is what we have to understand. So once somebody understands this, he becomes Rishi, Rishayaha. So what is this Tattva? And according to our scriptures, it is Anaropi Takar Vastu. Anaropi Takar means one on which there cannot be any identification of any form. So it is a root cause, it is the foundation, it is the essence. That is the Tattva on which everything else rests. So it is called the Adhisthana, on which everything, all other forms or shapes, they can subsist or they can present. So that is the Adhyastha. So Adhisthana is the foundation, Adhyastha is all this identification, it is there. And very common examples which is given in Upanishads is about Mati, which is like a foundation on which from this Mati you can make different kinds of pot or ghata, or different shapes, different forms can develop. So Mati and Ghata is one. Mati is the Adhisthana, Ghata is the Adhyastha. Similarly, Suvarna, the gold, is the Adhisthana from which you can make many different gharanas that one can wear. So these gharana or different forms or shapes are the Adhyastha, whereas the root cause is the Sonu or the Suvarna or the gold. So from which you can again usko dissolve karke you can make a different variety of jewelry. So Suvarna is the Adhisthana, Gharana or the forms and the shapes, the jewelry is the Adhyastha. So these are kind of the examples that are given to understand what is this Adhisthana. And according to our Shastras, the Adhisthana is the Tat or the Sat Tattva, that is the Adhisthana on which everything rests. That is the root cause, the Brahma or Atma, whatever you call this, pure eternal consciousness, and whatever name you can give it, but that is the foundation, that is the ultimate foundation which we need to understand, we need to know this, that is the Sat Tattva, that is the, Tat, it is called by Tat. And this Tat Tvam is the, verb of the Bhavvachaka of Tat, Tattvam. Tat Tvam means that you are that, Tat Tvam Asi. And that is the Mahavakya of the Upanishads, that the Jeev and the Brahma is one. There is a Aikya, there is a oneness. And this is called a Mahavakya, that is the ultimate, the climax of the Gnana, or that is the understanding of Advaita Vedanta philosophy, is this Jiva Brahma Aikya. How we can understand? By understanding that the foundation of everything is one. Of course, Jiva, if you see the form and the shape, Adhyastha, if your vision is on the Adhyastha, then you will see a lot of differences in this world. But if our vision is on the Adhisthana, the Tattva, that foundation of everything, then we will see the oneness, the Samatva Buddhi behind everything. We can see that oneness which binds, just like in a mala, necklace, there is one string that binds different beads, and the beads can be of different shape, size, but it is kept together by these thread. Similarly, that thread is the adhisthana on which all these beads. So you can't see the thread, but your vision is on the beads. So we will see all the differences, all the different shapes, all the different sizes, but we can't see that thread that is binding this mala. So that is what is the understanding of this adhyastha and the adhisthana, the foundation, the root cause. And so where is our vision? That is most important. If our vision is on the forms and the shapes, then we'll see all the differences. We cannot see the oneness. If we can see the tattva, then we'll see the oneness. So for the seeker on this our path, we need to become sarva bhuta hiterataha. We have to become selfless from being selfish. We have to shift our attitude from scarcity mentality to abundance mentality. We have to think of others, especially that we don't give pain to others by our mana, vachana and vani karma, because it is not just the physical violence, but by non-violence means that it is, in our scriptures, it is by mind, words and body. Even if you talk harshly with somebody, it is violence. Even if you think bad about somebody, it is violence. So we need not indulge in this kind of violence by our mana, vachana and karma. Yatatmanaha, managing our emotions, our mind, our senses. Chinna dveda, we have to be very clear about our goals and how to reach these goals, and we need to constantly introspect, and whatever doubts come along our mind, we have to release these doubts by doing manana, and kshina kalmasha by our sadhanas, karma yoga, bhakti yoga, by guru, vedanta, jnana. We have to take care of all the papa, the sins have to be reduced, and we have to reach this stage of all being akalmashaha, means without any sins. Kama krodha viyuktanam yatinam yatachetasam abhito brahma nirvanam vartate viditatmanam. So Lord Krishna says here, Kama Krodha Viyuktanam. One who is devoid of these desires and anger. Repeatedly says, because it is very important. Yatinam. One who does yata. Yata means prayatna. Who constantly puts in his efforts. By awareness, he is trying to progress on this life, on this path. Yatinam Yata Chetasam. Yata Chetasam means chitta. Chitta means mind. The mind is naturally balanced. Sama. Yata Chetasam. One whose mind is naturally balanced, who has a sahaj sanyama, whose mind is under control, niyam, niyantrana. Vidita atmanam, one who has understood, known this self. Vidita means known. We have understood this self, atmanam, our own self we have understood. So this kind of a person, abhitaha brahma nirvanam vartate, from all sides he has achieved and he has lived in eternal peace. He has become truly independent, who has achieved moksha, which is the ultimate goal of our life, our existence. And that is a person who is kama krodha vyuktanam, yatinam, yatachetasam, viditatmanam. One who has achieved all this, he has achieved moksha. And with this, Lord Krishna comes to the end of the 5th adhyaya, where he has talked about many beautiful things about karma, jnana, their assimilation, how we can achieve this karma yoga sadhana, how we can understand this knowledge, and how karma and sankhya is not different, it is the same path. He says they are children, they are like immature people who understand these as two different paths. It is the same path where we have to go first. We have to first take to karma yoga and then leave the karma grahana and then tyaga. With this understanding, with this knowledge, we have to do karma sannyasa, and with this there is a completion of the 5th adhyaya. And now in the next 3 shlokas, the 27th, 28th and 29th, these are the 3 shlokas which will link this 5th adhyaya to the 6th adhyaya. The 6th adhyaya is the adhyaya of dhyana yoga. And that's why these 3 shlokas talk about the dhyana vishaya. And the 27th shloka talks about the dhyana nirupana, 28th about the dhyata, the one who does the dhyana, and 29th is what is the goal, ultimate goal of the dhyana sadhana. And then we will start with the 6th adhyaya, which is a very beautiful adhyaya of Sri Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna talks about many minute details of what we need to do, how we need to do dhyana, and he's talked it in details. It's very beautiful, because dhyana is also a very important part of our sadhana. Whatever we have learned, whatever we have understood, how to assimilate that knowledge in our life and how to put it in practice, that can only be done with this kind of a Vedantic dhyana or nididhyasana, which is called. So this dhyana is what Lord Krishna talks about in the 6th adhyaya. So 27 shloka. Sparshan krutva bahir bahyan chakshush chaivantare bhruvoho prana panau samau krutva nasabhyantara charinau. In the 27 shloka, he talks about the dhyana yoga. Very brief, talks about how we should do bahyan sparshan bahi krutva. He says keeping the outer objects outside. Bahyan sparshan. Bahyan sparshan means these objects in which our indriya, our senses come in contact with. These objects, we should keep them outside during meditation. Bahi krutva. We should keep them outside, he says. Because it's very common, when the moment we start doing meditation or dhyana, we close our eyes, we start thinking, our mind goes in thoughts. And these thoughts are what? They are all about objects which are outside. They are outside, some person, some relationship, some things that I have to complete, my task which I have to finish. All these we keep thinking in meditation, and that is the first hindrance, first problem. So Lord Krishna says, yes, keep these outer objects outside. And if they have already come in, you already have some thoughts inside, also keep them outside. So bahyan sparshan bahir krutva. And then chakshu chaivantare bhruvoho. What we need to do outside, after we stop thinking, we have to focus our eyes in the center of the eyebrows. That is the place which is called the Nasika bhaga of the eyebrows, which is also called the place where there is the Agya Chakra. So we keep our mind, the idea is to keep our mind focused at one particular time, to steady the mind so that these thoughts can reduce. The idea is that it is not that with the open eyes we have to see the center of the forehead, but with the closed eyes we have to focus and concentrate our mind in the center of our forehead. And then prana panau samah krutva means keeping the prana and apana, our breathing, in balance, and nasya bhyantara charinau, keeping our breath in balance, because the mind and the breath have a direct connection. And if our breath and our apana, prana, our breathing is under control, then the mind also gradually will become quietened down and the thoughts will come down. So with this, Lord Krishna tells us how we can start our meditation process. Yatendriyah mano buddhihir munir moksha parayanaha vigetacha bhayah krodho yah sada mukta eva saha. In this, he talks about dhyata, one who does the meditation. How should he be? What kind of person is he? He is like a muni, a mananashila person who uses his intellect to control his mind. Because here in dhyana, there is a lot of concentration is needed. And the mind is the one that needs to be focused. During meditation, it has to be quietened down. So it says, yataha indriya mana buddhi. So one whose mind, senses and intellect are all under control. So that dhyata, that person who does dhyana, must have all these indriya, mana, buddhi under control. Only then he can progress on the dhyana marga or the marga of jnana. So this, and he must be a moksha parayana, one whose goal is already decided, is determined, and it is moksha is the goal. He wants to be liberated from all these conditioning of the mind, wants to become free. And third thing, he says, vigata ichha bhaya krodha. Vigata means one who has to let go, or he has left already, or he should leave these desires, this fear and anger. Because if these desires are there, it will not allow us to sit in meditation. If these fears are there, of some of the fears are there about our physical ailments, our disease, our fears of disease, fears of death, fears of losses, fears of wealth, fears of lot of other things, fears of losing some person. So lot of fears are there in our mind. If they are there, then we won't be able to sit in meditation. We have to leave these fears and anger. Already Lord has said, previous shlokas, kama, krodha, all this we have to live. Only then we can go on this path of meditation and assimilation of these knowledge and understanding. So with this, yaha sada mukta evasa, such a person who is done this, Indriya Mana Buddhi control, who has done Moksha Parayana, who has Vigata Ichha Bhaya Krodha, he is the person who is ever free, who is Sada Mukta. He is a person who is Jivan Mukta, who is left, who has become got Moksha, who has left all these bondages and has become Jivan Mukta. So this is the ultimate goal for Dhyata that Lord Krishna is telling us. And our Guruji tells us very commonly that for 1 hour of meditation that one wants to do in the morning, one has to change the 23 hours of the life. And that is so important, and all these small little changes that are important in life, Lord Krishna is going to talk about in details in the 6th Adhyaya, which is a very beautiful Adhyaya of the Dhyana Yoga. So we're coming to the last shloka of this 5th Adhyaya. Bhoktaram yagna tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram surudam sarva bhutanam gnatva mam shanti mukshati. So this is the samapti of the Adhyaya. Says what is the Dhyaya, and Lord Krishna talks about the Sopadik Swarupa of the Ishvara itself. What is it? Bhoktaram Yagna Tapasam. So he says, I am the Bhokta of Yagna and Tapa. So Yagna means where we give ahutis, and all these offerings are given to the Lord. And God says that I am the Bhokta, Yagna, ahutis, I am the God. And he says Tapa. Tapa means that whenever we swechhai, wherever by our own self we take some kashta. Kashta means some difficulties, we endure some difficulties, that is called tapa. And this is done by the Yajmana. Yajman is the person who does tapa. So this Bhokta is also Yajman ki, he says, God, he says, I am in the form of Yajmana also. So in the form of Ahuti also and Yajmana also, God says, I am the Bhokta of all this Yagna and Tapa. He also says, I am the Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. I am the Lord of all these beings. And I am also the Lord of all the Lords. So Sarva Loka, Sarva Deva, Maheshwara, Mahaishwara. And it says, Surudam Sarva Bhutanam. I am the friend of all the beings. Suruda means a person who helps the other person without any reciprocation, without any belief that he will help me in the future, without any expectation of help in the return. If somebody helps somebody else, that is called a Suruda. So Bhagavan says, I am Suruda of Sarva Bhutanam. All the beings, I do so much, I help them. And we know that Lord does everything, is so helpful because He's given us everything in this world to live. Right from the moment we were born as a fetus, in the mother's womb also, God protects and God gives us all the help that we need. Even in the life, He gives us all this oxygen, free air, everything that we need each and every moment for our survival. And that's how Lord is a Suruda. If somebody understands Lord in this way, by knowing me in this way, one achieves, he says, eternal bliss, Aikya, the Samadhi, Gnatva Mam Shantim Mrutchati. If somebody understands Lord in this way, that He is the Bhokta, He is the one everywhere, He is the same one, He is the Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, He is the Lordship, and He is the Sarva Bhuto, the Surada, then we can understand the Lord in this way and we can achieve the eternal bliss that we want. With this, we come to the end of this Adhyaya 5th. Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Karma Sannyasa Yogo Nama Panchamo Dhyayaha. Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Praja Aham Tva Sarva Papebhyo Moksha Ishyami Ma Shuchaha. So we have come to the end of the 5th Adhyaya, the Karma Sannyasa Yoga. The next Adhyaya is going to be Dhyana Yoga. We'll have a summary session, the 4th session of the 5th Adhyaya, the entire 5th Adhyaya, and then we will go to the 6th Adhyaya, which is the Dhyana Yoga. Thank you very much. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Para Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti.